What's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen at a party? I was at my friend's place with maybe 15 other people drinking, and at that time, the McRib was back. This one guy Rob had brought one with him and devoured it, probably in under 30 seconds. About 10 minutes later, he went wide-eyed and began to regurgitate it in one piece, roughly the same size and shape as the original McRib he had just eaten, but reconstituted out of McRib pulp pasted together with Bush Light. It landed on his stomach and sat there for a second until someone went, "Hey, the McRib is back." Once at a family party I saw two deaf men signing to each other, but at the same time getting much drunker. The signs just became slower and blurrier, and the last I saw of them, they were just hugging. As the party was winding down, my friend was passed on the sofa. He suddenly got up making some grunting sounds, proceeded to stumble right round the coffee table in front of him and back to the couch. He then pulled down his jeans and boxers and sat back down. The sound of runny turd squelching between his ass and that leather couch will haunt me for the rest of my life. My mate flicked his ciggy into the air, then spat as far as he could. Ciggy landed on the far side of the road. Gob of spit landed on it. We hear the hiss of it being extinguished. Nobody else saw it. No one would believe us. We were having a party at our house, and one of the guests got a little out of hand. He started breaking beer bottles on the floor and dancing in the shards of glass in his bare feet. The dance floor cleared and a circle formed around him, watching as he began rolling around on the floor, cutting himself on the glass. One of my housemates started yelling at him to get out, and he turned to her and said, "Stop censoring my art." Guy broke a door off its hinges while covered in blood, then casually just walked off with it under his arm without saying a word. Drunk girl fell down a flight of stairs to the basement at a party, landed face first on a pile of hardwood scraps, and gashed her face pretty good. Reverted to speaking Spanish. She was visiting from Mexico and refused the idea of calling an ambulance. She ended up fine the next day from what I heard, but looked pretty bruised from the pics I saw. She was drunk in the kitchen and went to lean on the wall, but there was a doorway where she thought the wall was, and she just kind of disappeared mid-conversation with someone. It was funny for about 2 seconds. Then we heard her land on the wood pile and we all rushed to help her. It was my father's 25+ years with his coworkers party in our backyard. One guy had a motorcycle accident a year prior, and this was his first party out of his bed he was in for 12 months. Promptly chugged along with everyone until he's having such a good time and obviously buzzed that he stands up off his wheelchair, propping himself with his forearms onto his 2 feet so fast everyone stood agape until he fell forward onto the table full of 40 beer bottles a half second later. Then it was laughter and good times rolling for these guys until sunrise next morning. He had forgotten he was handicapped among his buddies. 2 drunk girls just beating the shit out of this one jacked dude. The story afterwards was that he was cheating on both of them at the same time, and they met at the party when it all came out. Sorority girl making out with the drunk passed out carcass of a fraternity guy for like 10 minutes. He literally did not move at all. After she left to go dance again, 4 of his buddies had to carry him out. In college I was at a huge house party on a Thursday night. My girlfriend claimed to have to study for a tough exam, so I rolled out solo while she stayed in. This party was pretty rambunctious and wild, with people scattered throughout the 2 floors and a roof/deck. At one point in the party I notice that the bottom/main floor was emptying out, and I hear a lot of noise on the roof. So I head upstairs to see what's going on, and all the guys and girls are hooting, hollering, cheering, etc. So I get closer to get a peek at what they are cheering. Across the street in the 3rd floor of an apartment building, slightly below our line of vision, there is a dude bending this girl over a bar stool type chair with her face near the window. It was dark out, but there's a small amount of background light in the room, and because of the lighting of the street light we can all see pretty clearly. As I focus in further, I see that it's my girlfriend getting her back blown out. In a fit of drunken anger I throw a half can of beer across the street and amazingly hit near the window enough that they both look up and see their audience across the street. Then they both seem to scatter and everyone on the roof cheers loudly, with only 2 or 3 people I know closely realizing that it's my girlfriend. I storm downstairs and wait outside the apartment building. until she finally exits 20 minutes later. I doubt she saw me in the crowd on the roof, but she quickly found out I saw, or at least knew, as I cursed her off for 5 minutes and stormed back to the party. It was pretty awkward at the party when I returned, at least for half of the party who were sober enough to sort of realize what was going on and proceeded to get drunker. Later that night I was approached by a decent looking girl who saw it all go down. And that, kids, was the first time I ever received pity sex. Was at a party in high school. It was a pretty big party. People everywhere. I walk into the laundry room to a large group of people, about 15. They were all huddled around a dog kennel with a large bloodhound and 2 collies inside. They were laughing hysterically, yelling about some kind of initiation. Perplexed, I asked what this initiation was. Then one guy who I don't think I had even met before proceeded to pull his pants down past his ass and press his cheeks against the metal cage. The dogs all happily licked this kid's ass. I turned around and walked out. Weird shit. Don't even know what this initiation was for. I went to a party in high school that made me believe in mass hysteria similar to wartime Germany. I've never seen so many normal become so destructive on the turn of a dime. This chick who was kind of a bitch threw a house party while her parents were out of town. A lot of the school showed up. Guess she thought too many people were there, and so she announces that she called the cops. This didn't sit well with people for some reason and everyone basically rioted. I'm in the basement and see one kid playing golf through the glass panes of the French doors and then throwing the TV remote through the ones he missed. I pass a bathroom and a guy is standing on the sink, jumps down smashing through all the drawers that he opened and then awkwardly putting the drawers back in like nothing happened. Then he starts cutting the bottoms of the shampoo bottles out and arranging them like normal. I make my way to the stairs to see a portly kid run down them, use the couch at the bottom as a trampoline and slam into the drywall, leaving a nice Mexican-sized hole. Upstairs in the kitchen, one kid from band class is emptying spice bottles up in the back of the cutlery drawer because fuck oregano, and then he grabs some tinfoil, throw it in the microwave and set it for 10 minutes and walk away. People start escaping out to the back deck/yard because it opened to a big field and an easy escape from the cops. One of the neighbors was outside yelling at everyone, and this guy walks out with a stack of dinner plates and proceeds to throw them into the darkness, and one directly at the neighbor. A group of guys were standing on the deck trying to make sure everyone was with them, but they realize they are missing one, and it was too hard to go back in through the door while everyone is flooding out. So one guy throws a lawn chair through the glass window, and their fucking buddy comes bounding out like he somehow psychically knew the path was made for him. At this point in the chaos, I'm like fuck this, and I'm up climbing over the wooden fence, which is the only way out, but some people cannot make it over the fence, so they start to push the entire fence over. This fence was also every neighbor's fence as it was all connected, but it just buckled over like some kind of cheap zombie speed bump. Watched a midget do a keg stand in college. The ridiculous part was when he landed back on his feet, his eyes immediately rolled to the back of his head and he passed out. He fell backwards like a board and smacked his head on the floor. He looked dead for a few seconds and several people circled around him. When he finally opened his eyes, everyone yelled and cheered. Seemed like a movie. Group of us, ages 17 to 19. Around a bonfire drinking beers and girls start asking dudes truth or dare questions. Things start heating up and sexual tension is building up until my buddy asks this drunk girl who chose truth what her craziest masturbation story was. She tells us that midway through finger banging herself she let her German Shepherd mount her and she came. Killed the mood that was set because she started bawling when one of the guys called her a dog fucker and the rest of the girls tried to take care of her. I was at a party in college, sitting on the front porch sipping a beer, when someone was forcibly ejected, thrown down the steps onto the concrete. Dude was fine, dusted himself off, turned around and ran back in. Came out 2 minutes later, unaccosted, with a girl on arm. They calmly walked down the steps he was so recently thrown down, made a hard left into the bushes, and immediately went to Bone Town. They thought 3-foot tall shrubs would hide them completely. I saw. Everyone on the porch saw. Everyone walking down the busy college town street saw. The public safety officer arrived. Asked the girl, "You good?" She says, "Oh fuck yes." He proceeds to let them finish, then asks them to stay put. Calls the cops. Both get arrested.